Hi everybody, this is Mr. Zoeller, and today I'm going to be bringing you a screencast on the Virginia Plan, the New Jersey Plan, and the Great Compromise. So here are the things, students, that you should learn from this video. So first, you should be able to explain why the states argued about representation in Congress. Second, you should be able to explain how this conflict about representation was resolved. So how did they figure the problem? Thirdly, you should be able to explain the concepts of what's called equal representation and proportional representation. And finally, you should be able to describe the key features of what's called the Great Compromise. So what was the important conflict that existed between the large and small states? So here we are, we're at the Philadelphia Convention, or also known as the Constitutional Convention. And remember, the Congress had asked these 55 men, these delegates, these founding fathers that are there, to change the Articles of Confederation. But they believed that there were too many problems with the Articles that they wouldn't be able to fix it to make a stronger national government. So they all had decided that they would create a brand new constitutional government. And so one of the big problems that they have, in fact, the biggest problem that they have, is in this new government, how many representatives are each state going to get? Under the Articles of Confederation, every single state was represented equally in Congress. But not all of the states agree to that. So let's take a look here. So the small states, and by small states I mean in population, not necessarily in land size, they feared that states with larger population would control the national government if it wasn't based on equal representation for each state. So they wanted each state to have the exact same number of representatives in Congress. So this is called equal representation. So that would mean Virginia would get one representative, New Jersey would get one representative, Georgia would get one representative. So every single state is equal. On the other hand, though, we have states that are called large states, and that's because they have a lot of people that live in their states, and they don't feel that that's fair. So they felt that states that have more people should have more representatives. They have a larger portion of the population of the country. They should have more votes. And so what they wanted was called proportional representation. So the more people that live in your state, the more representatives or more votes that you would get. So let's take a look at what the 13 states of the United States look like early on. So here are some numbers from 1790. So I want you to, let's first take a look at the top here. So we have 7 small states, which means that these states have fewer than 250,000 people. So you can see how many people in each of those states. If each state had one representative, how many representatives the small states would have. And then take a look at if you gave representation by population, so every 30,000 people in your state, you would get one representative. You can take a look up there. So if you look at the small states overall, they have about 1 million people. They would have a total of 7 representatives if it was based on equal representation, and then they would have 30 if it was based on proportional representation. So take a look at the bottom chart. So we have 6 states that we would call large states, and that's because they had larger than 250,000 people. And if you look at their total population, they have about 2.6 million people. If each state had one vote, they actually would only have 6 votes. And if it was based on proportional representation, they would have a total of 84 representatives. So you can clearly see here, looking at the small states, why they want to have it based on equal representation. They would get a total of 6 votes for their states, or 7 votes, I mean, for their states, and that's more than the 6 votes that the larger states would have. So in that way, the small states would actually have a little bit more power. However, if you look at it from the large states' point of view, they're clearly in favor of proportional representation because they would have a total of 84 representatives versus the 30 in the small states, giving them a lot more votes. So this is the fears that they had on both sides. One side wants it to be as equal as possible, and the other side believes it should be based on the population. I mean, let's look at number 6 down here for Virginia alone. They have about 747,000 people and 24 representatives by population. That would equal Connecticut, Delaware, Georgia, New Hampshire, New Jersey, and Rhode Island all together if you added all their population. And so for the people in Virginia, they don't think that their state should get one representative when they have more people than those 6 states combined. And so this is an argument that's going to be going back and forth between the states is should they all get one vote or should they get votes based on the population in their state? So James Madison is going to propose an idea. So he has a plan for a stronger national government, and this is known as the Virginia Plan. He's from the state of Virginia. So this plan would create a stronger national government. There would be 2 governments that would govern the people, which means that would create the laws and enforce the laws for the people. So you would have state government, so every state would have its own state government. And then you also had a national government. So we'll learn later on, this is what's called the federal system. So it's how the states and the national government work together. And then the national government, unlike the Articles of Confederation, would actually have the power to make laws and taxes and enforce it, which it didn't have, as I said, in the Articles of Confederation. It also divided the government into 3 different branches. Under the Articles of Confederation, there was just a legislative branch, a Congress. So James Madison believed we needed to separate the powers of government into 3 groups. The legislative branch that makes laws, the executive branch, which is in charge of enforcing the laws, and the judicial branch, whose job is to figure out when there are problems with the law, to interpret what the law means. And so he believed that for the Congress, the national legislature, that instead of it being one group, he believed that it should be what's called a bicameral legislature, which just means 2 houses, 2 different groups. And so those groups would be called the House of Representatives and the Senate. And in the Virginia plan, James Madison believed that both of those houses should be based on population, proportional representation. So if you remember back to that chart, which state had more people than everybody else? Virginia. So what's the name of this plan? The Virginia Plan. And so this is something that those 6 large states are going to be in favor of. Now, the small states aren't going to like this, obviously, because that would give a lot more power to the larger states, not the small states. So William Paterson from New Jersey is going to come up with his own plan after meeting with some other founding fathers there at the convention, and this is known as the New Jersey Plan. And so this plan favored a weaker national government, still stronger than the Articles of Confederation, but not as powerful as in the Virginia Plan. It would be kind of the same as the Articles of Confederation. There would just be one house of Congress. So we call that a unicameral legislature, so one house Congress. Each state had equal representation, so every state would get one representative or one vote, or if it's more than one, then it would be the same in all of the states. Congress did have the power to collect taxes, which it didn't under the Articles of Confederation. Congress had the power to regulate trade among the states and other nations, which it couldn't do under the Articles of Confederation. And it also included 3 branches of government: legislative, executive, and judicial. So the New Jersey Plan was increasing the national government power like it was under the Articles of Confederation, but this is something that the smaller states would be more in favor of, versus the larger states are not going to like this because they don't want to have one vote for their states. And so the delegates at this convention are going to be arguing this issue of should it be proportional representation? Should it be equal representation for weeks on end? And eventually, Roger Sherman from Connecticut and some others came up with a plan known as the Connecticut Compromise, or today it's most famously known as the Great Compromise, which is kind of a combination of both of these plans. And so in this plan, Congress would have 2 houses, so it would be a bicameral legislature, a House of Representatives, and the Senate. But unlike the Virginia plan, where they're both based on proportional representation, they would be split. So in the House of Representatives, it would be based on proportional representation, which just meant that the more people that live in your state, the more representatives you would get. So this would be something that the large states would be in favor. And this group also had the power to propose laws dealing with taxes and spending in the government. Now, on the other side, the Senate was something that the smaller states were in favor of. So this was based on equal representation. And so it was decided that every state would get 2 representatives, no matter how big or no matter how small they are. And they also had the power to approve any proposed laws that came from the House of Representatives. So the House could create these different laws and taxes, and the Senate would have to be able to approve them as well for it to become a law. So this was something that gave the smaller states an equal voice in the government. And so this is going to be The big problem was, how should states be representative? How should they be represented, I should say? And the Great Compromise is that solution. So let's give the larger states the House of Representatives, and let's give the smaller states the Senate. Thank you for watching. This is Mr. Zoeller. Have a great day. Bye-bye.